Live. Give me a second, folks. Let me just verify we are live. Topics of today is going to be Canelo, Crawford. It's also going to be Manny Pacquiao, Mario Barrios, and we also have Chavez Jr. against Jake Paul. That fight is happening this weekend. So, Chavez Jr., Jake Paul. Let's begin with that. Then we'll get into Pacquiao. Then we'll get into Crawford and Canelo. So, Chavez is looking to come back and fight Jake Paul. We know that Chavez Jr. has struggled throughout his career, hasn't done well. At one point, he was up and coming. He was young. He was the son of the Mexican legend, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. But Chavez Jr. did not really pull his weight in the sport of boxing. Chavez Jr., for a while there, was going off his father's name, and eventually that caught onto him, not just in the ring, but outside the boxing ring. So now we have Chavez Jr. fighting Jake Paul. Jake Paul, interesting character, the villain of boxing, the bad boy of the sport, and he is looking to come in and piece up Chavez Jr. Look, Jake Paul is no longer a traditional social media celebrity. He has been boxing for some time now. He has a couple names on his resume, not really a not really a well-bred boxer, but he has names on his resume that makes you want to raise your eyebrow. So he does has Nate Diaz. We know Nate Diaz from mixed martial arts, from the UFC. He is a fighter. He also has Tyrone Whitley, not just one, but twice. And then he has other names in there like Nate Robinson. He also has a Mike Tyson name on his resume. Unfortunately, for all of us boxing fans, and now he is looking to get another legendary last name on his resume in Chavez Jr. The good thing that Chavez has is that Chavez is a big guy. Jake Paul is also a big guy. So, regarding their mass, their size, I think they'll be around the same size the night of the fight. Chavez Jr. is a natural boxer. Even though he didn't live up to his expectations, he does have boxing in his blood. And if you go back and you see him fight when he was at his prime, when he was making noise in the sport of boxing, he wasn't the worst boxer out there. He when he was disciplined, when he was young, when he was up and coming, he had some good fights fighting decent talent. It was into around the after the Canelo Alvarez fight, Chavez Jr. just fell off and was never the same again. Not just as a prospect, but he just fell off completely and began taking extracurriculum, let's call it recreational, let's just call them activities outside the boxing ring. And that's where, and that's what happened with Chavez Jr.'s story. Now, him coming back in the ring against Jake Paul is going to be an interesting fight. I personally, I hate to say this, but I think Jake Paul is going to beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. I see it in an entertaining fight. I see a Jake Paul walking in. He's been more active. He is more agile. And it just appears that he wants it more than Chavez Jr. From my point of view, Chavez Jr. is looking to collect a paycheck, is looking to make some money in the sport of boxing, but I don't see him looking to become a great anymore. So that's Chavez Jr. That is that's Chavez Jr. That's Jake Paul. Now let's go ahead and shift gears into Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao and Mario Barrios. That's gonna be an interesting fight. Another mismatch. Um, Manny Pacquiao has no business inside the square circle at this age. The man is close to 50 years old, and Manny Pacquiao is one of my favorite fighters, and I would hate to see him go out like this. Manny Pacquiao hasn't boxed since the Ugas fight. I'm talking about a legit boxing match. And now he is going to square up against Mario Barrios. Barrios is a good fighter. I know he hasn't won the big matches. Oh, looks like we have a comment from Judeus Sampson. Judeus Sampson in the house. Big shout out to the homie Judeus Sampson. If you like music, if you like Comic Con, if you like that pop culture entertainment, then you have to go follow Judeus Sampson. Click on his profile, go check out his videos. Anyhow, back to Manny Pacquiao and Barrios. So Manny Pacquiao is coming back after being outside the square circle for a couple of years now. He is close to 50 years old. And the one thing about Manny Pacquiao's style is that his attributes, his keys to success is fast, reflex, agility, and stamina. And as a fighter gets older, they start losing speed, they start losing the reflexes, and their stamina is not the same. On the other hand, you have a young fighter in Mario Barrios who has been through some tough matches. I'm talking about Keith Thurman. I'm talking about Gervonta Tank Davis. I'm talking about many fights that Barrio has had. Some of them he has looked good. Some of them he has looked bad. But nevertheless, he shows up to the fight. What I think Manny Pacquiao is hanging his hat on is that Barrios has a Mexican style of fighting. And if you've seen Manny Pacquiao's career, he has done extremely well against Mexican fighters. Against Mexican fighters who go in there, throw punches and bunches, make it a brawl, make it a bloody mess, make it a phone booth fight. That's where Manny Pacquiao ascends. That's what Manny Pacquiao likes because he likes to go toe to toe in those type of matches, and he typically gets the best of those type of Mexican fighting styles because he's quicker, he's agile, he has angle, he has great reflexes, and he also has power. That being said, in this fight, Mario Barrios is clearly going to be the bigger man. Mario Barrios is going to be the fresher man. Mario Barrios has been more active than Manny Pacquiao. If this fight was happening in their prime, Pacquiao, Barrios, no question about it. Pacquiao will run circles around Barrios, will tag him up, will piece him up, will get him up and at her there. But let's be realistic. Pacquiao, close to 50 years old. Barrios in his early 30s or late 20s. In this fight, I just do not see Manny Pacquiao winning the fight. And I as I mentioned earlier, Pacquiao, one of my favorite old-time fighters, just don't want to see him go out like this. So shifting gears into the mega fight of the year, we're finally going to get Canelo Alvarez against Terence Bud Crawford. Terence Bud Crawford, we have a comment from Judeus. Manny is going to be rusty That is correct, Jadeus. Manny Pacquiao is gonna be rusty. He's working out. He's going up in the hills. He's running. He's putting in the work, but going into a square circle and hitting the speed bag, hitting the heavy bag, working out in the gym sparring is not the same. Pacquiao is definitely going to be rusty. So let's see what happens after the first few rounds. Let's say after the fourth round, I'll be able to assess how it is going to go down. Whether Pacquiao can work his way up to a victory, I'm thinking via the scorecards, or if it is Mario Barrios who's going to get the best out of Pacquiao simply because of age and simply because he is the fresher fighter. But back to Canelo and Crawford. Crawford has been asking for this fight. Crawford is coming up from 154. He only had one fight at 154, if that's correct. Most of his career has been at 140 pounds, 147 pounds. We know that Canelo Alvarez has had a handful of fights at 168 pounds. So we have a Canelo Alvarez going up, a Terrence Bud Crawford going up from 154 pounds to 168 pounds. Folks, there is weight classes for a reason in the sport of boxing, and Terrence Bud Crawford is going to find that out. Look, in this match, I can go either way. Some days I like Terrence Bud Crawford. Some days I like Canelo Alvarez. If you follow the channel, you probably have heard me criticize Canelo Alvarez' resume before, and I stand on what I have said before. He has a mix of matches. Some of them very good fights, the Triple G fights, the Daniel Jacobs, and some of them he fought fighters that should have not been in the ring with him. I'm talking about the Rocky Fieldings. I'm talking about the Chavez Jr., just fighters that were not in the caliber of Canelo Alvarez. But nevertheless, Canelo Alvarez, Terrence Bud Crawford is going to be a good fight because I don't see weight being a big factor in the fight if, and that is if Terrence Bud Crawford can stay level-headed. If Terrence Bud Crawford can stay collective, I can see him not getting in these phone booth fights with the bigger man, Canelo Alvarez, and tagging Canelo Alvarez from a distance, landing his combinations, moving around, working his way around Canelo Alvarez. That's how I can see this being a tremendous fight. But on the other hand, if Canelo Alvarez goes in the ring and is able to land shots, I'm not just talking about uppercuts, jabs, right hands. I'm talking about body shots. The type of body shots you're going to feel for days. The type of body shots that derail a career. The type of body shots that take away your footwork. If Canelo Alvarez lands those body shots, similar body shots that got Caleb Plant, I can see a Terrence Bud Crawford folding up and eventually Canelo Alvarez getting the victory. But folks, we are still a few months away from Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford. The first big fight we have coming up, it is Chavez against Jake Paul. Then we have the Pacquiao fight against Mario Barrios. Then we have Canelo against Terrence Bud Crawford. Again, in that fight, I can go either way. But let's take a moment here and talk about the face-off that happened in New York City, because that was very telling. The reason I say that is because Terrence Bud Crawford walked down Canelo Alvarez. Before Canelo Alvarez was able to push away Crawford, Terrence Bud Crawford walked him down with his body, with his weight, chest to chest. Canelo Alvarez appeared to be extremely upset. Terence Bud Crawford was acting a bit out of character. He was smiling. He was mocking Canelo. And both of them were talking their fair share of smack. Canelo Alvarez telling him that he was going to remember the moment. Terence Bud Crawford expressing that he was going to take the belt. Now, there's a press conference happening later today. This is going to be the last and final press conference before the fight. Well, not before the fight, before they go into training camp. I want to see Canelo Alvarez expression. I want to see Terence Bud Crawford's eyes. Does Terence Bud Crawford believes he can beat Canelo Alvarez? That's the question. Because in an interview, both of them were asked if they believe, out of a percentage, if they believe they can beat each other. Canelo Alvarez mentioned he was 100% certain that he can beat Terence Bud Crawford. But Terence Bud Crawford expressed that he was only 70% sure that he can beat Canelo Alvarez. And that's where things get interesting. Because Canelo Alvarez's confidence is off the roof. And is off the roof because he has many competitive advantages in the fight. Not only is he going to be the bigger fighter, if you just look at their upper body, Canelo Alvarez's shoulders are broader. He has more muscle mass. Terence Bud Crawford is smaller, but that is going to play out in a couple different ways. But not only Canelo Alvarez is the bigger man, he is also the most experienced fighter in big caliber mega fights. And even though, and I have criticized Canelo Alvarez before because of this, even though he has fought an old Sugar Shane Mosley past his prime, even though he has fought a Gennady Golovkin the third time past his prime, even though he has fought many fighters who are past their prime, Canelo Alvarez has gained experience. So let's talk about for a second the Floyd Money Mayweather fight. Canelo Alvarez fought Floyd Money Mayweather. He lost the fight. We know that. He lost the fight, but he gained a tremendous amount of experience. He fought Miguel Cotto. He won the fight. Cotto was past his prime, but he gained a tremendous amount of experience. Canelo Alvarez fought Sugar Shane Mosley past his prime, but he gained a tremendous amount of experience. And all this experience is building on his arsenal of ammunition to fight someone like Terence Bud Crawford. On the other hand, Crawford has fought many fighters in their prime, in their best, with O's, with zeros, and has come out on top. He has also fought a few fighters that did not have O's on their resumes, but were still in their prime. I'm talking about a Sean Porter. I'm talking about a Kell Brook. I'm talking about an Errol Spence. I'm talking about a Victor Postol. I'm talking about a Gamboa. These are fighters who were at their peak, in their prime, were coming off a loss, had one or two losses on their resume, but they were still top 5 in their weight classes. This is the kind of caliber acquisition that Terence Bud Crawford has been fighting throughout his career. So even though Canelo Alvarez has the competitive advantages, being the bigger guy, being the most experienced fighter, being the cash cow, being the marketing face in the sport of boxing, I'm telling you that Terence Bud Crawford is not going to go down without a fight. Terence Bud Crawford, his key to victories are going to be stick and move. Hit, not get hit. Clinch, tag up Canelo, and stay level-headed. Stay level-headed. Because if Crawford lets his anger, his ego get the best out of him, he is going to walk into some big punches from a bigger guy. And I don't believe Terrence Bud Crawford has ever felt the power that he is going to be feeling against a Canelo Alvarez. We saw what happened when Canelo Alvarez fought Charlo. Charlo went in there, he did his thing a little bit, but once he felt Canelo Alvarez' power, he backed away. Similar to Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant went in there, was having a good match, but once he felt Canelo Alvarez' power, he folded. Similar to Billy Joe Saunders, he went in there, was tagging Canelo. Canelo Alvarez unloaded his big shots, and Billy Joe Saunders folded. Amir Khan. We know that Amir Khan was a smaller guy, but that was easy work for Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez also has good timing. Terrence Bud Crawford also has good timing. I think the magic here is going to happen in who commits. Canelo Alvarez is going to be patient, is going to look for Terrence Bud Crawford to commit on his offense, on his punches, and then come back and counterpunch. Terrence Bud Crawford is also going to look for Canelo Alvarez to commit. And we saw that when we saw Errol Spence against Terrence Bud Crawford. Crawford waited for Terrence Bud Crawford waited for Errol Spence to unload his shots. And then not only did he counterpunch, but he was punching in between punches. Punching in between punches. Errol Spence will go in with a right hand, and before that right hand can even get to Terrence Crawford, Crawford was already tagging Errol Spence. And that is demoralizing in a fight. If you're trying to get off your shot, and before you can even get it off, before your shot can even get to its target, you're already getting punched in the face, smacked around, tagged around. That is going to take the other fighter's soul. And that's actually one way that I can see Terrence Bud Crawford getting the best out of Canelo Alvarez. If he is able to tag Canelo Alvarez before Canelo even gets off his shots or in between shots, I can see a Canelo Alvarez getting frustrated. I can see a Canelo Alvarez attempting to cut the ring. I can see a Canelo Alvarez getting tagged up and marked to the face if Terrence Bud Crawford plays it correctly. But boxing family, as I mentioned, it's been tough. It's been tough to pick a fighter. It's been tough to pick a winner between Crawford and Canelo Alvarez. From a purist boxing fan here, I like Terrence Bud Crawford's resume better. I believe he fought everyone they put in front of him. I believe he fought every challenger. Canelo Alvarez, if you just go back and take a look at his last few fights, they have been handpicked. What did Edgar Berlanga did to deserve a fight with Canelo Alvarez? That's the question. What did John Ryder did to deserve a fight with Canelo Alvarez? That's the question. What did Jaime Munguia did to deserve a fight with Canelo Alvarez? Yes, interesting fighters, but not la creme de la creme. I think it is clear who boxing fans want to see Canelo Alvarez in the ring with, and that will be David Benavidez. But unfortunately, I do not see that fight happening. I see Terrence Bud Crawford, Canelo Alvarez having a fight. And in all reality, I even see Terrence Bud Crawford winning the fight and us seeing a rematch among both fighters. Because one thing is clear, if Canelo Alvarez beats Terrence Bud Crawford, I don't see a rematch. I don't see why that would be necessary, and I don't even see any money in a rematch. But if Terrence Bud Crawford beats Canelo Alvarez, I can see Canelo asking for a rematch. I can see a lot of money behind it, and I can see Turkey funding that rematch because the revenue will be there. The revenue for a rematch will be there. It will be a good fight, but it's going to come down to what Terrence Bud Crawford can do inside the square circle. So, folks, just to recap the live stream here, unless you guys have any questions, any comments, questions, let me know in the comment section below. If there's anything you want me to speak on, let me know in the comment section below. If not, I'll begin to wrap it up here. By the way, I was out, haven't been doing videos for about a year, but I think what I'm going to do moving forward, going to focus more on the live streams, get people in here. We're starting the live streams, get some people in here asking questions, making it more engaging and building the channel like that. The everyday videos, those can be a little taxing. I do have a full-time job, and sometimes it can be a little overwhelming with my other goals that I have. Anyhow, to wrap up the live stream, Jake Paul against Chavez Jr. I think Jake Paul is going to take the W. Chavez Jr. has just been inactive. I know he fought like in the last few months, but he didn't fight a caliber opponent, and his mind hasn't been in boxing for a long time. Jake Paul has been more active. I know that he's not a natural bred boxer, but he wants it more. I know that Jake Paul wants the W more, and I can see him beating Chavez Jr. So Chavez, Jake Paul, I see Jake Paul winning the fight. Now, the next fight we talked about was Manny Pacquiao and Mario Barrios. As a big fan of Manny Pacquiao, I don't want to see him back in the ring. I don't want to see him back in the ring and go out like so many other great champions have gone out, where they don't know when to hang up the gloves. Manny Pacquiao, you were the best in your prime. You did your thing. I think you're an 8th division world champion and done so much for the sport of boxing. It's time to focus on things outside of boxing. If you win, all power with you, but you have so much more to offer outside the sport of boxing. So Barrio Pacquiao's, I see Barrios taking the W. And then Canelo Alvarez, Terrence Bud Crawford. I actually see Terrence Bud Crawford taking the W it's either going to be a tough fight or an easy fight. I don't see this being a competitive fight. It's either going to be a tough fight in the sense that Terrence Bud Crawford feels Canelo Alvarez's power and then gets on his bicycle in order to make it to the end of the fight, or an easy fight because if skills can pay the bills and Crawford can tag up Canelo Alvarez, if Crawford can tag up Canelo Alvarez throughout the fight and frustrate him, I can see Crawford being victorious. But that's it for the live stream, folks. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If boxing is what you like to follow on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Peace.